The Vidians' mistake was thinking humans were just dumb, hairless apes. Their greatest mistake was acting on that belief. Now they were about to learn just how deadly that arrogance would prove as veteran Space Marine Marcus Porter crept through the dense alien jungle, plasma rifle in hand, ready to make the bugs pay in blood. Marcus Porter was no stranger to the horrors of war. At 45, the grizzled Space Marine had seen more than his share of death and destruction, but nothing could have prepared him for the devastation wrought by the Vidians. The insectoid aliens, with their superior technology, had caught Earth's colonies off guard, raining fire from the skies and reducing cities to rubble. Thousands were enslaved, their fates unknown. But humanity would not go quietly into the night. They rallied, they fought back, and now Marcus led his squad deep into enemy territory on planet Zeta Prime. Their mission, to capture a high-ranking Vidian officer and uncover intel on their next attack. The stakes couldn't be higher. If they failed, more human worlds would burn. As they neared the Vidian compound, Marcus halted his team with a raised fist. Through the foliage he spotted their target, the ruthless Commander Hydrus himself, emerging with his guards. Marcus knew this was their chance to strike a crippling blow. But suddenly alarms blared. They'd been detected. Marcus made his choice in a heartbeat. "Open fire!" he roared, as plasma bolts lit up the night. The battle had begun, and the fate of humanity hung by a thread. Marcus charged forward through the plasma bolts, searing the air, his power armor taking the brunt of the Vidians' counterattack. He crashed into Commander Hydrus, taking the insectoid leader to the ground in a tangle of limbs. They grappled savagely, Marcus's gene-boosted muscles straining against Hydrus's hardened exoskeleton. Hydrus's razor-sharp mandibles clacked and snapped, trying to find purchase on Marcus's helmet. The Marine wrenched his head to the side and drove an armored fist into the Vidian's cluster of compound eyes. Hydrus shrieked, a piercing sound that sent pain lancing through Marcus's skull, even through his helmet's audio dampeners. Viscous ichor poured from Hydrus's ruined eye. The moment of disorientation was all Hydrus needed. His powerful legs kicked out, sending Marcus flying. The Vidian commander scrambled to his feet and sprinted for a waiting hover transport, his guards pouring suppressing fire to cover his escape. Marcus rolled to his feet, barking orders for his squad to press the attack, but the Vidians' numbers were starting to tell. 2 Marines fell, their armor breached by the aliens' relentless plasma fire. Marcus knew they were on the verge of being overrun. At the last second he leaped, the suit's powerful leg actuators propelling him up and forward. His gauntleted hands found purchase on the transport's rear cargo ramp. Marcus clung on as the craft soared over the jungle canopy, engines screaming. Through a tiny viewport, he could see Hydrus glaring at him, compound eyes filled with hatred. The pursuit had begun, a desperate aerial chase high above the alien wilds. Marcus knew the odds were against him, but he had a mission to complete, and he'd see it through to the end, no matter the cost. The wind howled past Marcus's ears as he clung to the speeding transport. His magnetic boots held him fast to the roof, even as the craft banked and swerved erratically. Unslinging his plasma rifle, Marcus took aim at the engines and opened fire. Searing bolts of energy ripped into the metal, sparks flying. Inside the cockpit, Hydrus slammed a clawed fist on the control panel. "Shake off that human filth!" he screeched at the pilot. The Vidian transport dipped and rolled, trying to dislodge its unwanted passenger, but Marcus held on tenaciously, gritting his teeth and continuing to pour plasma fire into the engines. Suddenly, one of the engines exploded in a gout of flame. Alarms blared as the transport lurched sickeningly, spiraling towards the ground. Marcus felt his stomach leap into his throat as he gripped the roof's edge, fighting the crushing G-forces. Trees and vines whipped past in a blur as the jungle rushed up to meet them. At the last second, the pilot managed to level out the craft, but it was too little, too late. The transport ploughed into the jungle floor with a deafening crash, tearing through foliage and earth before grinding to a halt in a smoking ruin. Marcus was flung from the wreckage like a rag doll, his power armor taking the brunt of the impact as he tumbled to a stop in a cloud of dirt and splintered wood. Staggering to his feet, he shook his helmeted head, trying to clear the ringing in his ears. The transport was a twisted mess of metal, but as Marcus approached warily, the rear hatch blew open with a screech of tortured hydraulics. Hydrus emerged from the smoke, battered but defiant, a massive plasma cannon clutched in his claws. The Vidian's remaining compound eyes blazed with pure malice. "I think you've won, Ape," Hydrus snarled, his mandibles clacking furiously. "You've only sealed your species' doom." He punctuated his words with a searing blast from his cannon, the plasma bolt narrowly missing Marcus's head as he dove for cover behind a fallen tree. Plasma bolts crisscrossed the jungle as the two warriors traded fire, neither giving an inch. Marcus knew he had to end this quickly, before Hydrus's reinforcements arrived. Thinking fast, he pulled a concussion grenade from his belt and hurled it at the Vidian's feet. Then, as the grenade detonated with a thunderous boom, Marcus charged forward through the smoke and debris, rifle blazing, hoping to catch his foe off guard. The concussion grenade explodes in a deafening blast, hurling dirt, shrapnel, and the Vidian commander through the air. Hydrus slams into the ground, his exoskeleton cracking from the force of the impact, but the resilient insectoid is already recovering, pushing himself up on his clawed limbs, shaking off the effects of the blast. Marcus charges through the swirling smoke, plasma rifle spitting searing bolts of energy. But Hydrus is ready for him. The two warriors collide in a furious melee, a whirlwind of armored limbs and flashing claws. Marcus swings his rifle like a club, the butt of the weapon crashing against Hydrus's helmeted head with a sickening crunch. The Vidian's chitinous helmet fractures under the blow, ichor oozing from the cracks. Hydrus retaliates with blinding speed, his razor-sharp claws ripping through Marcus's armor, like it was paper. The Marine feels the searing pain of the talons slicing into his flesh and falls back with a grunt, crimson blood welling from the gashes. Hydrus presses his advantage, mandibles clacking in anticipation of the kill. He lunges forward, bearing Marcus to the ground under his superior weight. The Vidian commander looms over Marcus, his remaining compound eyes glinting with malice. His mandibles snap at the Marine's throat, seeking to tear out his life. Marcus strains against Hydrus's iron grip, servos in his armor whining with the effort. With a burst of desperate strength, he wrenches one arm free and slams his fist into Hydrus's ruined eye socket, the blow squelching sickeningly. Hydrus reels back, an ear-splitting shriek of agony tearing from his insectoid maw. Marcus wastes no time. He plants an armored boot in the Vidian's midsection and kicks him away, sending Hydrus tumbling across the jungle floor. The Marine scrambles to his feet, snatching up his fallen plasma rifle and leveling it at the Vidian commander. But before he can pull the trigger, a bolt of searing plasma streaks past his head, missing him by mere inches. Marcus spins to see a dozen Vidian warriors emerging from the dense foliage, weapons blazing. Hydrus's reinforcements have arrived. Plasma bolts crisscross the clearing, scorching the earth and setting the jungle ablaze. Marcus is forced to retreat, zigzagging from cover to cover as the deadly energy projectiles tear through the undergrowth around him. He slaps a hand to his comlink, trying to raise his squad. "Porter to Firebase Zeta, I need immediate extraction. Do you copy?" But only static greets him in response. Marcus grits his teeth, the bitter taste of blood on his tongue. He's alone, outnumbered and rapidly running out of options. The Vidians are closing in, their weapons lighting up the jungle with deadly fire. Marcus knows this is where he makes his last stand. He'll take as many of the bug-eyed bastards with him as he can. He braces himself, preparing to charge out and meet his fate head-on. But suddenly the sky above erupts with the roar of engines. A barrage of missiles streaks overhead, contrails of smoke in their wake. The projectiles slam into the advancing Vidians, throwing them through the air like ragdolls in a spray of dirt, splintered trees and ichor. Marcus looks up to see a squadron of human dropships descending from the clouds, their hulls emblazoned with the logo of the Earth Defense Force. Reinforcements have arrived, and not a moment too soon. As the dropships touch down and disgorge squads of heavily armed Marines, Marcus allows himself a grim smile. The tables have turned. It's time to take the fight to the enemy. As the human dropships touch down in the war-torn jungle clearing, the rear hatches hiss open. Disgorging squads of battle-hardened Marines, they storm down the ramps, boots pounding on the packed earth, weapons at the ready. Marcus, battered but unbowed, rallies to the reinforcements. He charges forward to join them, his plasma rifle spitting bolts of searing energy at the scattered Vidian forces. The jungle erupts into a fierce firefight, the air thick with the crisscross of plasma bolts and tracer rounds. The human Marines push forward, their weapons barking, mowing down the insectoid warriors in sprays of ichor and shattered chitin. Marcus fights his way through the chaos to the squad leader, a grizzled veteran sergeant named Hawkins. Hawkins nods, his jaw set with determination. "Understood, Corporal. I'll have my squad secure the perimeter. You take a team and hunt that bug bastard down. Don't let him get away." Marcus salutes sharply. "Yes, sir." He turns to a group of Marines, hand-picking a team of the toughest, most experienced fighters. "You're with me. We're going after Hydrus. Move out!" The squad moves out, following the trail of destruction left by the fleeing Vidian commander. Shattered trees, scorched earth, spatters of glowing ichor. They advance cautiously but quickly, weapons at the ready, scanning for any sign of their quarry. The trail leads them to the edge of a steep ravine. There, cornered and wounded, stands Hydrus. The Vidian commander is battered, ichor oozing from cracks in his exoskeleton, but his eyes still blaze with defiance and hatred. "Hydrus," Marcus calls out, leveling his rifle at the alien warrior. "It's over. Surrender now and I'll consider letting you live." Hydrus's mandibles twitch in a chittering laugh. "Surrender? To an ape like you? Never!" Suddenly the Vidian commander unleashes a barrage of plasma fire from his cannon, the bolts sizzling through the air. Marcus and his squad dive for cover behind boulders and fallen trees, the plasma impacting around them in bursts of scorched earth and molten rock. A fierce gun battle erupts, the humans returning fire, plasma bolts and tracer rounds crisscrossing the ravine in a deadly light show. Marcus and his team advance slowly, darting from cover to cover, using the boulders and trees to shield them as they close the distance to Hydrus. Just as they're about to make their final push, a shimmering energy field springs up around Hydrus. The human's weapons fire splashes harmlessly off the shield, ricocheting away in showers of sparks. Hydrus laughs mockingly from behind his energy barrier. "Did you really think it would be that easy, ape?" he taunts. Marcus growls in frustration, realizing they need to breach that shield and fast, before Hydrus can escape or summon aid. His tactical mind races as he scans the ravine, looking for any weakness, any advantage. There he spots it, a fissure in the ravine wall behind Hydrus, a structural weakness. A plan forms in his mind, a daring gambit that could end this battle once and for all. He turns to his squad, issuing quick hand signals outlining his audacious scheme. They nod in understanding, fanning out to take up positions around the ravine. Marcus himself steps forward to confront Hydrus directly, drawing the Vidian's fire, his armor absorbing the brunt of the plasma bolts. He advances step by step, taunting Hydrus, keeping the alien commander's attention focused solely on him. Behind Hydrus, unseen, Marcus's team takes aim at the weak point in the ravine wall. On Marcus's signal, they open fire, pouring plasma bolts and grenades into the fissure. The rock face explodes in a shower of dust and rubble, the ground trembling beneath their feet. Hydrus spins around in surprise, mandibles clacking furiously. Marcus seizes his chance. He charges forward and leaps, sailing through the crackling energy shield, and slams into Hydrus with the force of a wrecking ball. The two warriors tumble to the ground in a tangle of limbs and armor, grappling savagely as the ravine wall collapses around them in a deafening avalanche of stone and earth. Marcus charges forward, his armored boots pounding on the rocky ground, zigzagging erratically to avoid the searing plasma bolts that lance from Hydrus's cannon. The Vidian commander, his shattered eyes blazing with hate, focuses all his fire on the advancing Marine, determined to obliterate his hated foe. But Marcus's daring gambit is already in motion. As he draws Hydrus's full attention, his squadmates take aim at the weak point in the ravine wall, their weapons whining with building energy. Plasma bolts and grenades streak through the air, slamming into the unstable rock face with thunderous detonations. The cliff face begins to crumble, cracks spiderwebbing out from the points of impact. Boulders and debris rain down, gathering speed and volume as the entire wall starts to collapse. Hydrus, realizing too late the trap he's been lured into, tries to make a desperate run for safety. But there is no escape. The avalanche of rock thunders down on the Vidian commander, smashing through his flickering energy shield like it was made of paper. Hydrus disappears beneath the tumbling boulders, his final screech of rage and despair echoing off the ravine walls. As the dust begins to settle, Marcus and his squad approach the pile of rubble cautiously, weapons at the ready. The Marines scan the debris for any sign of movement, any hint that their foe might have somehow survived. Suddenly a clawed hand bursts from the rocks, followed by Hydrus's battered form. The Vidian commander hauls himself out of the rubble, his once gleaming exoskeleton now cracked and oozing viscous fluids. One of his arms hangs limp and useless at his side, but with the other he raises his plasma cannon, the weapon shaking in his weakened grip. Marcus doesn't hesitate. In one fluid motion he brings his rifle to bear and fires a single precise shot. The plasma bolt drills through Hydrus's shattered eye, burning into his brain. The Vidian commander slumps back, his cannon clattering to the ground as the life fades from his ruined body. Warily, Marcus moves in to confirm the kill, but as he reaches Hydrus's corpse, the alien's remaining eyes flicker open, fixing the Marine with a baleful glare. "You think this is over, human?" Hydrus rasps, ichor bubbling from his mandibles with each word. "You have no idea what's coming. The Vidian Empire will crush your pathetic species beneath our claws. This is only the beginning." With a final gurgling laugh, Hydrus expires, his warning hanging in the air like a dark prophecy. Marcus stares down at the fallen alien, a chill running down his spine, despite the heat of the battle. He regroups with his squad, the Marines making their way back to the waiting dropships. As the adrenaline rush of combat begins to fade, Marcus can't shake the feeling that this victory, hard won as it was, is only a prelude to a much greater conflict looming on the horizon. The Vidians have been bloodied, but not beaten. As the dropships lift off carrying the battle-weary humans back to base, Marcus knows that this war is far from over. Humanity will need every ounce of courage and ingenuity to prevail against the alien menace that threatens to consume them all. Marcus and his battle-weary squad limp back to the waiting dropships, their armor scorched and dented, their bodies bruised and bloody. As the ships lift off, carrying them away from the war-torn jungles of Zeta Prime, Marcus slumps in his seat, exhaustion and the weight of Hydrus's final words bearing down on him. Back at Earth Defense Force headquarters, Marcus stands before a panel of grim-faced generals and admirals, relaying the Vidian commander's ominous warning. "Sir, Hydrus claimed this was only the beginning," Marcus reports, his voice rough with fatigue. "He said the Vidian Empire would crush humanity beneath their claws." The room erupts into murmurs of concern, the top brass exchanging troubled looks. Admiral Graves, a steel-haired veteran with a face etched by years of conflict, leans forward. "This confirms our worst fears," she says. "The Vidians are a far greater threat than we anticipated. We need more intelligence on their capabilities and plans if we hope to stand a chance." She turns to Marcus, her gaze piercing. "Corporal Porter, you've proven yourself our best operative in the field. We have a new mission for you. We need you to infiltrate a key Vidian command center on Kygon Prime and gather vital intel. You'll be going deep behind enemy lines." Marcus nods, his jaw set with determination. "I'll handpick a team, ma'am. We won't let you down." As he strides from the briefing room, Marcus already knows who his first pick will be. He finds Sergeant Jake Bulldog Briggs in the armory, the burly Marine methodically cleaning his plasma rifle. "Bulldog, you up for another bug hunt?" Marcus asks, clapping his old friend on the shoulder. Bulldog grins, a gleam in his eye. "Thought you'd never ask, Porty. Let's go kick some Vidian ass." As they make their way through the alien city, towering spires of chitinous resin looming above them, They have to constantly dodge Vidian patrols and surveillance drones. The insectoid warriors stalk the streets, their compound eyes glinting, plasma rifles at the ready. They hack into a central data hub, and the secrets they uncover paint a horrifying picture. The Vidians aren't just planning to conquer humanity, they intend to enslave them, to use them as test subjects in twisted experiments. Grainy hollow footage shows human captives strapped to operating tables, their screams echoing as Vidian scientists slice into them, injecting them with bubbling serums. The captives' bodies warp and mutate, transforming into grotesque hybrids, part human, part insectoid abominations. Marcus feels a cold rage burning in his gut as he watches. The stakes, he realizes, are even higher than he'd imagined. This isn't just a fight for humanity's freedom, but for its very survival as a species. "We have to stop this," he growls. "We have to put an end to these atrocities." They set explosive charges throughout the command center, then fight their way into the central control room. As Bulldog covers him, Marcus hacks into the mainframe, downloading terabytes of critical intel onto a data drive. But just as they're about to make their escape, alarms start blaring throughout the facility. The team's intrusion has been detected. On the security feeds, Marcus sees Vidian warriors swarming towards their position from all sides, plasma rifles charged and ready. Bulldog hefts his rifle, a fierce grin splitting his face. "Then let's make sure we give 'em hell before we go." Marcus nods, steel in his eyes. They'll complete their mission no matter the cost. For Earth, for humanity. As the Vidians close in, mandibles clacking, Marcus and his team dig in, preparing for a last stand. They'll sell their lives dearly, taking as many of the alien bastards with them as they can. The doors to the control room shudder as the Vidians slam against them, denting the metal. Marcus and his team level their weapons at the door, fingers tight on the triggers. "Come on, you bug-eyed freaks," Bulldog snarls. "Come and get some." With a shriek of tortured metal, the doors buckle and the Vidians swarm in, all razor claws and gnashing mandibles. Plasma bolts fill the air as Marcus and his team open fire, the staccato blast of human weapons answered by the sizzling hiss of Vidian plasma rifles. But for every insectoid warrior that falls, two more surge forward to take its place. The humans are forced back step by step, their ammunition dwindling with each passing second. Bulldog slams a fresh power cell into his rifle. "There's too many of them," he shouts over the din of battle. "We can't hold out much longer." Marcus grits his teeth, blasting a Vidian's head into a shower of shattered chitin. He knows Bulldog is right. They're being overwhelmed, and it's only a matter of time before they're overrun completely. Suddenly the entire building shakes as a massive explosion rips through the air. Marcus and his team are thrown off their feet, as are many of the Vidians. Dust and debris rain down from the ceiling as a gaping hole is torn in the far wall. Through the swirling smoke, a towering figure emerges, a human mech suit, its armor gleaming, its heavy weapons already spitting fire into the Vidian ranks. The mech's shoulder-mounted missile launchers belch smoke and flame, each projectile exploding amid the insectoid horde, sending chitin and ichor flying. As the mech strides forward, cutting down Vidians with every step, Marcus catches a glimpse of the pilot through the cockpit viewport. His heart skips a beat. It's Lieutenant Emma Vance, his old flame from the academy days. Over the mech's external speakers, Vance's voice crackles to life. "Heard you boys could use a hand," she says, her tone laced with wry amusement. "Thought we'd drop by and even the odds." With Vance and her mech squadron engaging the Vidians, Marcus rallies his battered team. "Push forward," he roars. "We've got to reach the control room." Bolstered by the mech suit's firepower, the humans surge ahead, cutting down the disoriented Vidians. They fight their way through smoke-choked corridors and debris-strewn halls until they finally breach the command center's inner sanctum. Inside, Marcus makes a beeline for the central computer core. His fingers fly over the hollow keys as he hacks into the system, downloading terabytes of critical intel onto a data drive. Invasion plans, fleet movements, high-value targets. Just as the download completes, a new threat emerges. A massive Vidian mech crashes through the far wall, its armor bristling with weapons. In the cockpit, Marcus sees a familiar insectoid visage sneering at him. Commander Zyrax, Hydrus's second-in-command. "You humans have interfered for the last time," Zyrax snarls over the mech speakers. "I will grind you beneath my heel like the insignificant pests you are." Marcus looks to Vance and the other mech pilots, but Zyrax cuts him off. "No, this fight is between you and me, Ape. Your compatriots will not interfere, or I will order my forces to raze every human settlement on this planet." As the other humans fall back, Marcus steps forward to face the Vidian commander mono a mono. The two mechs circle each other like titans of old, their footsteps shaking the very foundations of the building. Then, with a roar of engines, they charge, clashing in the center of the room with a deafening boom of metal on metal. Marcus grunts as the impact slams him back in his harness, warning lights flashing across his displays. Zyrax presses his assault, his mech's clawed limbs raking across Marcus's armor, leaving deep rents in the steel. Marcus retaliates with a barrage of point-blank cannon fire, the shells detonating against Zyrax's shields in blossoms of fire and sparks. The duel rages back and forth, neither warrior able to gain a definitive advantage. Marcus's mech is more maneuverable, allowing him to dodge and weave around many of Zyrax's attacks. But the Vidian's mech is heavily armored and brutally powerful, shrugging off blows that would cripple a lesser machine. As the battle enters its final desperate minutes, both mechs are battered and smoking, their armor pitted and scarred. In a last-ditch gambit, Marcus lets Zyrax's mech charge him head-on, then sidesteps at the last possible second. The Vidian, unable to halt his momentum, crashes into the far wall in a shower of sparks and debris. Seizing his chance, Marcus leaps onto the back of Zyrax's mech, grappling with it as the Vidian commander tries to shake him off. With a final, desperate effort, Marcus wrenches his mech's arm free and slams his fist through the enemy machine's cockpit canopy. He feels a rush of visceral satisfaction as he closes his mech's fingers around Zyrax's writhing form, ripping the Vidian from his harness. With a contemptuous flick, he sends Zyrax hurtling across the room to crumple against the far wall, ichor oozing from the ruined ruin of his body. Just then, Vance's voice crackles over the comm. "Marcus, we've got to move. More Vidian reinforcements are on the way, a whole damn army of them." Marcus nods, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Copy that," he says. "I'm on my way." He leaps down from Zyrax's ruined mech and sprints for the extraction point, the data drive clutched tightly in his mech's hand. He bursts out of the command center to see Vance and the other human mechs holding off a fresh wave of Vidian forces, buying time for the dropships to load up the wounded. Marcus hurls himself into the fray, his mech's weapons blazing, cutting a path through the insectoid horde. Step by step, he and the other humans fall back towards the waiting dropships, their armor battered and scorched, but their spirits unbroken. At last, with a final burst of covering fire, they leap aboard the dropships, the hatches slamming shut behind them. The ship's engines roar to life, lifting them into the smoke-filled sky, leaving the flaming wreckage of the Vidian command center behind. In the dropship's hold, Marcus slumps back in his mech's cockpit, exhaustion washing over him in a sudden wave. Vance's mech strides over, the lieutenant popping her hatch to flash Marcus a weary grin. "Hell of a fight down there, Marcus," she says. "Thought we were goners for a minute." Marcus nods, managing a tired smile of his own. "We cut it damn close," he agrees, "but we got what we came for. This intel could turn the tide of the whole war." As the dropships streak through the upper atmosphere, leaving Kygon Prime behind, Marcus knows that this victory, hard won as it was, is only the beginning. The Vidians will surely retaliate for this blow, striking back with renewed fury and savagery. But for now, for this one brief moment, he allows himself to savor the taste of triumph, however fleeting it might be. The battle has been won. The war stretches before them, long and hard and bloody, but Marcus knows that humanity will never stop fighting, never stop resisting, until the Vidian threat is ended once and for all. No matter the cost, no matter the sacrifice they will endure, they will overcome, and in the end they will prevail. As Marcus and his team debrief with Earth Defense Force Command, their hard-won victory is celebrated across the planet. The vital intel they secured from the Vidayan stronghold gives humanity a glimmer of hope in the war against the insectoid invaders. Medals are awarded, speeches are made, and for a brief moment the grim spectre of annihilation recedes. But even as the EDF mobilizes for a concerted counterattack, whispers of treachery slither through the ranks. Among the reams of data recovered from Kygon Prime, evidence emerges that the Vidians had help from within. A human traitor who fed them classified information and sabotaged Earth's defenses from the inside. Suspicion quickly falls on General Alexei Zhukov, a hawkish, ambitious officer with a reputation for ruthlessness. Marcus has never trusted Zhukov, seeing in him the same cold, calculating mentality that led to the Vidians' atrocities. When Marcus is tasked with investigating the general, he accepts without hesitation. The mission requires utmost secrecy. Marcus works alone, delving into Zhukov's background, his associates, his financial records. He taps clandestine sources, calls in old favors from his days in Black Ops. Piece by piece, a picture begins to emerge, and it's far more sinister than a single traitor. It appears that Zhukov is the leader of a shadowy faction within the EDF, a cabal of officers and officials who see the Vidian invasion not as an existential threat, but as an opportunity. They believe that by allying with the aliens, by helping them conquer and subjugate humanity, they can secure positions of power and privilege in the New World Order. As Marcus digs deeper, the risks escalate. He knows he's being watched, his movements tracked. He starts to see the same faces in the crowd, catching fleeting glimpses of dark-suited figures in his peripheral vision. Zhukov, it seems, has caught wind of his investigation. Late one night, as Marcus pores over intercepted communications in his darkened apartment, a creak of floorboards is his only warning. Shadows detach from the walls, and suddenly he's fighting for his life against black-clad assassins, their neuro-shock batons crackling in the gloom. Marcus reacts on instinct, years of training and combat experience surging to the fore. He breaks the first assailant's arm, sends him crashing through a coffee table in a spray of glass and splintered wood. The second he drops with a precise strike to the throat, crushing the windpipe. The third manages to land a glancing blow, the neuro-shock baton searing Marcus's flesh, but the Marine powers through the pain, slamming his attacker into the wall with bone-breaking force. As the last assassin crumples to the floor, Marcus staggers to the window, peering through the blinds at the city beyond. He's forced to confront a chilling reality. He's not just fighting the Vidians anymore. He's fighting his own kind, an enemy within that may be just as deadly as the alien invaders. Marcus knows he's close to the truth, close to exposing Zhukov's treachery, but he also knows that the general is a formidable adversary, cunning and ruthless. If he's going to bring Zhukov down, he'll have to move fast and strike hard. Gathering his evidence, Marcus sets out to confront the traitor in his lair. He infiltrates EDF headquarters, bypassing security with forged clearances and a stolen uniform. His weapon is concealed, his armor lightweight and unobtrusive beneath the uniform's fabric. He finds Zhukov in his office, the general's face lit by the glow of a holo display. When Marcus bursts in, Zhukov looks up, startled, then smiles coldly. "I was wondering when you'd show up," he says. Marcus levels his gun at the general. "It's over, Zhukov," he growls. "I know everything. You're under arrest for treason." But Zhukov only laughs. "You think it's that simple?" he asks. "You have no idea what's really going on, the forces at play." He moves suddenly, a blur of speed and power that belies his age. He knocks aside Marcus's gun, and the two men collide in a brutal hand-to-hand battle. Zhukov is skilled, his blows precise and powerful, but Marcus has the edge in raw strength and stamina. They crash across the office, smashing furniture, trading bone-crunching strikes. In the end, it's Marcus who prevails. He pins Zhukov to the wall, the general's face bloody and bruised. "Talk," Marcus snarls. "Tell me everything." And Zhukov does. He spills the details of the conspiracy, names his co-conspirators, reveals the extent of their betrayal. Marcus listens in growing horror, realizing the depth of the rot within the EDF. Just as Marcus secures Zhukov and prepares to bring his evidence to light, alarms shatter the air. On the holo display, images flicker to life, showing Vidian ships descending on Earth's cities, their weapons blazing. The final assault has begun, the endgame of Zhukov's treachery. Marcus watches in stunned disbelief as the Vidians begin their bombardment, the first of Earth's defenses crumbling under the onslaught. Marcus watches in horror as the Vidian ships descend from the skies, their hulls gleaming in the sun like the carapaces of monstrous insects. Alien warriors pour from the landing craft, their plasma rifles spitting deadly fire as they charge into the streets. Humanity's defenses crumble under the onslaught, EDF soldiers falling by the score. He leads the charge himself, his plasma rifle blazing, cutting down Vidians left and right. His fellow soldiers, inspired by his bravery, fight with renewed ferocity. The street becomes a charnel house, littered with the broken bodies of both humans and aliens. In the midst of the carnage, a new horror emerges. A towering Vidian warrior, clad in heavy battle armor, strides through the smoke and flames. It is Overlord Crix, Zyrax's successor, and he wields a massive plasma cannon with brutal efficiency. Crix's compound eyes fix on Marcus. With a hideous chittering laugh, the Vidian champion raises his cannon and opens fire. Marcus barely manages to throw himself behind the rusting hulk of a destroyed APC as the plasma bolt sizzles overhead. Marcus knows it's a challenge he can't refuse. The fate of Earth hangs in the balance. If Crix isn't stopped, the Vidians will roll over humanity's last defenses like a tidal wave. He glances around at his fellow soldiers, sees the fear and desperation in their eyes. "Hold the line," he tells them. "I'll deal with this bastard." Marcus vaults over the APC's wreckage, his jump jets flaring, propelling him towards Crix. The Vidian warlord laughs, a sound like splintering bone, and levels his cannon. "Come then, ape," Crix snarls. "Come and die!" The two champions collide in a maelstrom of flashing blades and searing plasma. Marcus, his armor battered and scored by countless battles, throws himself into the fray with reckless abandon. Crix matches him blow for blow, his chitinous battleplate absorbing the worst of the Marine's fury. They fight across the ruined cityscape, crashing through walls and tumbling over piles of rubble. Marcus feels his strength waning, his wounds bleeding freely, but he fights on, driven by sheer desperation and the knowledge that if he fails, all is lost. In a final mad gambit, Marcus tackles Crix, locking his armored limbs around the Vidian warlord in a crushing grip. Crix screeches in fury, his claws raking at Marcus's helmet, trying to find a weak point. But Marcus holds on with grim determination. With a final burst of his jump jets, he propels them both over the edge of a crumbling skyscraper. As they plummet, locked in a deadly embrace, Marcus feels a strange sense of peace wash over him. He knows what he must do. Even as they fall, Marcus rips a cluster of grenades from his belt. He jams them into a crack in Crix's armor, right over the warlord's pulsing thorax. Crix's eyes widen in sudden understanding and fear. Then he slams his fist down on the grenade's primer. The explosion is tremendous, a blossom of fire and shrapnel that consumes both warriors. The shockwave shatters windows for a mile in every direction. Flaming debris rains down on the battle-scarred streets. On the ground, the human defenders stare up in awe and disbelief. They see Crix's ruined body plummeting from the sky, trailing smoke and flames. Of Marcus there is no sign. A ragged cheer begins to rise from the human ranks, swelling to a roar. The Vidians, seeing their champion fall, begin to falter and retreat. The EDF presses forward, galvanized by Marcus's sacrifice, driving the aliens back block by blood-soaked block. The battle rages on, but the tide has turned. Humanity, battered but unbroken, rallies behind the memory of Marcus Porter, the hero who gave everything to save his species. The Vidians are driven back to their landing zones, then off the planet entirely. Earth is saved, but the cost is immense. Cities lie in ruins, millions are dead or wounded, and among the fallen is Marcus himself, his body never recovered from the rubble. In the aftermath, as the survivors begin the long, painful process of rebuilding, Marcus is hailed as the savior of humanity. His battered dog tags, found amidst the wreckage, are enshrined in a monument built to commemorate the fallen heroes of the war. The Vidian invasion, for all its horror and devastation, has united humanity as never before. The old divisions of nation and ideology seem petty in the face of such an existential threat. A new global order emerges, one founded on the principles of cooperation and collective defense. Humanity has learned a bitter lesson, but one that will serve them well in the years to come. As they take their first tentative steps into the wider galaxy, they do so with a newfound strength and resolve. They know now that they cannot rely on the goodwill of other species, that they must stand together if they are to survive and prosper. And standing with them in spirit if not in flesh is Marcus Porter, the Marine who gave his life so that humanity might live, the hero who showed the galaxy the indomitable will of the human race. His sacrifice will never be forgotten. His legacy will endure as long as humanity itself. In the face of impossible odds, in the darkest of hours, they will remember his courage, his resolve. And they will remember that even one person, driven by duty and love for their fellow humans, can change the course of history, can save the world. Marcus Porter, savior of Earth, the man who died so that billions might live. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.